Welcome to a special edition. Yours truly, independent Aspie, artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical analyst, and theorist. We're gonna go for a coffee with yours truly, Adrian Hanna Dragon, yours truly, independent Aspie, artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical analyst, and theorist. So it's gonna begin with a rock and roll with that gratitude. Grateful, thankful that my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. Coffee to last me, I believe, until the 3rd of January, maybe the 7th. Possibly the 2nd of January, but I'm going to stretch it out for the next coming of the year because its prices have increased, but open for business 24/7, although financially struggling, financially stressed at the moment. I got to commence with my gratitude. Paid my rent for December, paid my electricity bill, got some food, got some coffee, and I can go for a special Dragon versus Trump. As you don't know, if I do know that I have been commencing and I began challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border back in 2018 when Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel, and have been ever since. And I stayed out of politics until that moment. I was just coming out of being depressed and suicidal. Back in 2017, I crossed Canada coast to coast, and that event made me establish a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, who of course I consider my family. And back then, of course, I traveled Canada 2017, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and that event made me come out of me being depressed and suicidal because I kind of had an illumination. I had a big illumination. I had a revelation. I said, wow, so much to see, to do here. And I started working out, training, and exercising. And I encourage you all to work out, train, exercising. And working out, training, exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. As you know, I'm going to go probably today to my second home, Mount Royal, my second home, if not roundabout Montreal, to work out, train, exercise, and rock and roll, and do geopolitics as I do my independent work, as I'm more open for business. Grateful, thankful once again. Rent's paid, electricity bills paid, and coffee, got some food, and got these gloves donated by my anonymous friend, who, if I make a million, gonna give half, 50%. I've been donating. Got these about 6 years ago, 2018, in spring 2018, when Donald Trump, of course, imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. That time it was only 10% only that time, and now, of course, the new threat, of course, is of 25%, which is serious and grave. Of course, we must do all the things that we have to do and to avoid as much as possible the imposition of this 25% tariffs on Canadian goods, on all ALL, on all goods, on ALL, on all goods this time, not just on aluminum and steel as was the case in 2018. And back then I have been, of course, calling for the building of the North American ring made by Canadian and made with Canadian aluminum and steel, and for me and Donald Trump to box. And let's me and Donald Trump box for a resolution and a peaceful entente, a new alternative solution to those 25% tariffs, which will be on the Canadian-US border. Me and Donald Trump fighting on the 19th of January. Still got some time to get in shape. More than 33 days. So, and let's build together, start building in a circle round about the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, because we got to get that binational Dragon Army, just like the NHL, NFL. They're not really national. The NHL, the NBA, they're binational. And Canadians, here, North Americans, I do say always that I'm a Quebecer, North American Canadian, and I was born in the United States of America 3 times, once as a woman, twice as a man, served in the United States Armed Forces 2 different times when I was born as a man, 156 years apart. So now, grateful, thankful, yours truly is North Americans Unite, and I'm going to send some salutation and to Chrystia Freeland, regardless of XYZ and other factors. I'm going to focus on some words and, of course, the wisdom in the resignation letter that proponents, and said, of course, that Trump administration is going to pursue an aggressive economic nationalism. So that's basically the fundamentals of what Chrystia Freeland's summary of what is going to happen when Trump takes power, if it continues to proceed with the imposition of 25% tariffs on all goods this time, not just like in 2018 when it was just solely on aluminum and steel. And I have hope that we're going to resolve, and binationally we're going to resolve our conflicts and get that North American Union parallel to what the European Union did. If not, we're going to progress with public-private partnership. Everything that I do and call fundamentally for the initiation of my initiatives and protocol is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership. And now, before I commence, I do want to sing some rock and roll. Rock and roll for the firefighters, LOV, for the butchers and the truckers and the nurses and the doctors. Gotta love those. Thank you to those who picked up the garbage. Got 3 services. Public workers is important for the public and the private to work together. And salutations to those who pick up the garbage. Yesterday, the garbage collection and the recycling and the compost is coming on the Thursday. So, LOV, gotta sing it for the warehouse workers. Hey, On the docks, they changing lanes. On the trucks, they changing lanes. You know that they carrying grocery stores and those who making, flipping some of those burgers, cheeseburgers. On the fast food, they don't need a race to that increase. And of course, it's true that we're facing tough economic times for Quebecers, Canadians, myself included. I'm grateful, thankful right here in this room of St. Temple. Nonetheless, it's better than where I used to live. And I just remember, moving from a moldy place and was sick, suicidal, and I live with my scars and trauma. But in the past more than 7 years, I've been healing a lot and written tens of thousands of pages of philosophy, geopolitical theoretical analysis, because that is my main obsessive interest. People with Asperger's, HFA, high functioning autism, we have obsessive interests. So mine is geopolitics, and it's a constant analyzing and revision of events in geopolitical terminology, and of course all the events that are unfolding every minute by minute, basically day by day. New geopolitical events are unfolding, and I gotta say that I'm marking 5 years since I concluded that back in 2019. I made the conclusion that of course humanity is set on an international conflagration, and we're set of course to go towards a World War III, and I predicted it back in 2019. And back then, of course, based on several levels and deep analysis on geopolitical events of past, present. But if I can make a summary, of course, is my conclusion was based due to the fact that many nation states, geopolitical regions, and civilizations were not able to resolve their conflicts in a peaceful manner, that there's going to be an international conflagration. So that was my main conclusion. If I can make a summary of it, a common denominator, back in October 2019, when I had predicted in a general manner what's unfolding now across the world in the geopolitical conflagration and escalation of conflicts, is based, of course, on my analysis, which I predicted that humanity is again set on a course towards an international conflagration. And so created and produced a workout training program system to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario back in 2019. You heard that correct. So back in 2019, I do November and October and November, the months of geopolitics, when I do the annual revisions. And back in 2019, I sounded the alarm, and I concluded that humanity is set on a concourse towards an international conflagration. In other words, a World War III. I have proof of work, because I have the videos online there on my YouTube channels as a fellow wannabe YouTuber who, although doesn't get views and likes, and that's I do it as a work. It's my obsessive interest and my holy trinity of obsessive interest. People with Asperger's, HFA, high functioning autistics. So of course we have obsessive interest, and those interests preoccupy our daily routines and with intensity and concentration. And basically I wake up for many years in the morning, I do my stretches, my workouts, and I do geopolitical analysis and theorizing, and then revising and writing documents in parallels to propositions for protocols and programs, which are fundamentally mine, that is the initiatives, and fundamentally they're public-private partnership based, PPP based. And of course again I concluded back in 2019 that humanity is set towards an international conflagration. And to make a resume, the common denominator is that due to the fact that many geopolitical regions, nation states, and civilizations were not able to resolve their conflicts in a peaceful manner, and that's the 20th century. Conflicts are going to come back in the 21st century, and there's going to be a spillover, and they're going to restart. So that was basically my analysis. It was more deeper and more in-depth analysis of geopolitical situations and realities of the geopolitical situation back in 2019, from the 20th century up to that point in time, early 20th century, First World War, if I could put a point of demarcation, and of course the Russian October Revolution, the November Revolution, the Socialist Revolution in Russia was a major event. The Cold War, which almost lasted 45 years, officially 44 years and 9 months. So those events in the geopolitical realm, and of course the current events with the war on terror and post 9/11 realities of the 21st century, post 9/11 realities of the 21st century, made me conclude that due to the fact that many unresolved conflicts from the 20th century between regions, nation states, and civilizational complexes were not fully resolved, they're going to restart in the 21st century. So that is basically what is unfolding now in Russia, Ukraine, is that conflicts which predate the 21st century, and they have their roots in the 21st century. Same with the Taiwan-China situation. The People's Republic of China, or the island of Taiwan, is a conflict which dates from the 20th century. And of course, the Middle East, Israel-Palestine conflicts, as much as I know philosophically and their history and the events and point by point, of course it I can stay or pronounce myself on any side or whatsoever, because fundamentally I'm a North American. My initiatives are for the North American Collective, what I call the North American Collective Civilizational Complex, for defense, security, and service. So as much as I do espouse, and of course I know the philosophies, and I always say, if you want to have a discussion, geopolitical discussion or political sociological discussion of China, the People's Republic of China, mainland China of 1.4 billion people, that you have to have an understanding, and you have to have read the governance of China. And if you haven't read or even heard about the governance of China, I'm gonna politely decline to have a conversation until furthermore you gain more wisdom or understanding of the tractates known as the Governance of China, which are volumes espousing the philosophy and the ideology of Xi Jinping, also known as Xi Jinping's thoughts. So I pretty much know it, but I always do revisions, and I've read it, and I reread it, and I still gotta read, because I gotta read and educate myself constantly. There's so many things I don't know, so many things at which I am myself less able. And with Asperger's, I have social difficulties, and I'm less able in certain things. I admitted myself in certain things I'm mediocre, average, and so. But fundamentally, I'm great at geopolitics, and is my obsessive interest, parallel with dancing, and dancing is my favorite sport and fitness activity, and rock and roll, that's my holy trinity of obsessive interest. And those three interests preoccupy, and I'm involved in working in them, and have been for many years in any different levels throughout the days, basically 24/7 geopolitics, rock and roll, fitness, and sports. Dancing is my favorite sport and fitness activity. So the Chrystia Freeland's letter of resignation, what caught my attention as a geopolitical theoretical analyst or independent geopolitical analyst and theorist, is her phrasing that Trump's administration is gonna pursue, is set on a course, because Trump's not officially president yet until the 20th of January, is set to pursue an aggressive economic nationalism policy. An aggressive economic nationalism policy. So that basically fundamentally is the tariff, the proposition to impose tariffs. Basically, she summed it up in a more political manner, but that's basically what it is. So I am myself Canadian, Team Canada, of course, first and foremost, but as a realist geopolitical analyst and theorist, and as a mystic who, like George Patton, the General George Patton, believes in reincarnations, although I'm 50-50, I am androgynous pansexual, part of the LGBTQ community as well. But of course I believe, and I know, because when I go to my second home, Mount Royal, for the past 7 years, I get flashes of reincarnations, and sometimes I was born a man and a woman. And in George Patton's Three Glass Darkly poem, which he wrote, of course, there he writes in reincarnations, but he only mentions that he was a man, regardless of that mystic side aside, and my part of spirituality aside, which being a bit on the I don't know side, I have more questions than answers spiritually. And although believing in reincarnations, I do not know how the pyramids were built. I always say maybe men cannot figure out how the pyramids were built because they were built by women. Maybe men can't figure out how pyramids were built because they were built by women. Maybe men can't figure out why. Generalize, I don't like to generalize, but some men, I guess, because we have theories on the but I always say, of course, that maybe men don't know how the pyramids were built because they were built by women. And of course I will myself, as the priestess Hana, to build the forgotten goddess temple on the Canadian West border, parallel complementary in a 50-50 manner with the North American Imperial People's Coliseum. Let's build it together. Liberal conservatives for the North American Collective Union, for the creation of a common currency, the UE based on my DRT theory, the debt for fusion theory, for the creation of a UE and standardization of prices, an integrated 911 protocol for security, service, and defense, and for rebuilding the infrastructure. That's my dream, and part of my dream, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, which is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership. My dream, when I say support my dream, pledge your allegiance, is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership across the collective North American civilizational complex across North America. Because I always say we're North Americans, Quebecer here, Canadian, Quebecer, North American, And although I can be for world peace and an international citizen, pretty much my experiences is on the island of Montreal, the metropolis, 2.5 million people, island of Montreal. And I gotta sing some more rock and roll again for the workers in the warehouses, the truckers, those in the daycare changing some of those diapers. Hey, those in the daycare changing some of those diapers, those in the daycares changing some diapers. Hey, and the truckers on the road and the cleaning workers. Here we go for the public workers. That's the sure. Somebody gotta sing it. It ain't all about Wall Street. You gotta give some charity. Please give some charity. NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB. Please reduce the ticket cost by 44.9%, 44.9%, 44.9%. That is my call for the tickets to be reduced, and of course to give some charity, millionaires, billionaires. I'm not totally selfless. I'm not totally altruistic. You know, I have my weird behavior sometimes, bodily movements and awkwardness, and less able in certain circumstances and nonverbal communication and social settings, you know, Aspies like myself, we can have difficulties, but for the past more than 45 months, I've been learning to accept it and to work on my symptoms, because there's no medication for HFA, high functioning autism, and also known as Asperger's. We just have to manage the symptoms with which we live, and that's it. That's all rock and roll with that. So for the Chrystia Freeland summary, and have to sometimes focus on those details, because that detail of the letter, in parallel to whatever was said in the letter, the point is that there's wisdom in there. And sometimes we gotta let the bipartisanship, the liberal, the conservative, the MDP here, because we got a multi-party system, parliamentary. And my brothers and sisters, you know, I'm not sentimental about the king. I'm not sentimental about the king and queen. I got your 40 plus million backs here if there's, you know, any invasion from the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific, because, you know, you're my family. And sometimes I refer to Chrystia Freeland as auntie, and to my Prime Minister Legault of Quebec as uncle, but sometimes he has some wisdom which counterbalances mine. And sometimes Justin Trudeau, at the end of the day, we're not enemies. And, you know, if there were ever been an invasion also to my brothers and sisters in the USA, I would definitely cross the border to help and support if there's any invasion from the east or from the west, from the Pacific or the Atlantic. The Pacific's to the west coast, and the Atlantic is to the east coast. You know, now I'm facing south. In the back of me is north. That way is east, and that way is west. To point a little bit of the points on the video, how the video is a bit on the up and down side, but nonetheless. So definitely we have to come together, North Americans, and of course I have predicted what's happening now in a general manner worldwide, and we got to get that strong North American collective union. And we're fundamentally North American, and as a philosopher, which I've discussed my theory, and I believe it's a theory which is true as a philosopher, of course, that we constitute a collective North American civilizational complex, which is embodied in our common infrastructure. The of course, is an emergent collective civilizational complex, a civilizational complex which is not totally distinct, it's not totally divorced, but has distinction from Western civilization. So those are two words, elements, which have to be retained in the consequential analysis of the North American civilizational complex, that we're not divorced, but we have distinctions from Western civilization, where an emergent civilizational complex, or a complex of civilizational complex, which is not divorced but is distinct from Western civilization, and has unique characteristics and distinctions which were formed and still forming every day, with the common infrastructure, common electrical grids, common geography, the fact that we have two oceans in the east and west. We have two oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific. So also geographical and historical, because we're a new emergent civilizational complex, North America. And we also have sports leagues. Even I can put in create the sports leagues, and I gotta give a shout out to the new sports league formed last year, the PVHL, Professional Women's Hockey League, which rocks and rolls. And that's gonna be my first expense, although now I'm $10,000 in debt, and I got a few dollars, and I'm gonna go change some bottles to give me a few dollars to get my anonymous friend a little bit of some on a budget gift for the holidays, for Xmas, Christmas, for the holiday season, you know, to get a little bit of XYZ. Because if I make $1 million, $1 billion, $1 trillion, I'm going to give 50% half to my anonymous friend, who wasn't my friend because of the money. Because I never really had any. Wasn't my friend because of the money. cause I never really had any. Wasn't my friend because of the money, cause I never really had any. But money aside, I got trillions of kisses. Credited from the forgotten goddess, I got trillions. A trillion has 12 zeros, as a billion has 9. And of course, I got trillions of kisses, which I'm putting on the table, parallel to rock and roll songs by the daily, which I create on the daily as I go. And of course, and push-ups and hugs, and my workout training program system, which I'm calling to be integrated across high schools of the North American Collective of North America. I think it's an efficient, effective, and simple workout training program system which requires no equipment, and which is of course overall simple, but is effective and simple, that is increases overall general fitness. It does not, of course, build really aesthetic. It's not necessarily made, it's not made at all actually for aesthetics, but it's made, when I created it back in 2019, to increase general overall fitness, and you can see more than 372 of my own workout training program system, which I created online, and I've did more than perform myself some live streams on Facebook of my own workout training program system, which is officially called the General War Integrated Total Body Training System, the General War Integrated Total Body Training System, the General War Integrated Total Body Training System, aka the Dragon Army workout, aka the 300 workout. Tell the leaders of the free world, Rainbow Dragons rock and roll song message. Drop down, give me some push-ups and some LOV, because it's not all about fight. It's not all about fighting. You gotta have some LOV. We have to have some LOV, and it's not all about strength. I totally understand in these tough economic times, as a pro-labor and love universal revolutionary centrist, the idea, the concept, peace through strength. I understand it fully, because myself, who has survived trauma and being attacked by surprise, viciously surprised by surprise, attacked by, an experience was, I was surprised, I was attacked by surprise, a vicious cowardly surprise attack, and I fell, I hit my head and dislocated my right arm. My right arm was dislocated. I went to the hospital. I got it in the archives of the hospital, and that's why I got that retrograde amnesia. I have like blackouts of memory prior to my life, before that incident, and before moving here, and having also survived COVID and lived with scars and trauma. But I'm joyous. I just manage my Asperger's and manage my symptoms. But I am hypervigilant. So maybe subconsciously, to analyze, that's why I created my workout training program system, and I got fit in order to play defense. And of course, aggression, as my auntie Chrystia Freeland's words were very wise, that Donald Trump's administration is going to pursue an aggressive economic nationalism policies, and that summarizes the idea of imposing 25% tariffs on all good. It's basically, Chrystia Freeland's words are correct. That is an aggressive economic nationalism policies. But hey, in North America, we got to play binational. Just like that NHL, National Hockey League, the Professional Women's Hockey League, the PVHL, and let's create a common currency, standardize, and we have to also rebuild and can be all about money and CEOs and corporations. We gotta mass invest, give people second chances and redemption. Because if ain't no way that I would have millions of dollars now, billions, I would have loved to have 44 billions after Trump got officially resulted as being the elected president on November the 6th. I would have taken 10% of 44 billion, which would have been the equivalent of 4.4 billion, which would have been the equivalent of 4,400 million. For a billion is 1,000 million. A billion has 90. 44 billion, if I would have had, I would have done 10%, it would have been 4.4 billion. 4.4 billion, that would have been 10% of 44 billion. I would have gifted across North America. I would have went incognito, hoodie on, got dirty on, look a bit incognito, and I would have distributed 50,000 to vulnerable men, women, and homeless, and vets, black, white. And I would have whispered, I would said, I got my second chances a few years ago when I survived COVID, and right here in this room of St. Temple, I died right here in this room of St. Temple. I died right here in this room of St. Temple, and I'm being reborn and have been reborn since COVID. I died right here, March 2020, and I'm being reborn with each breath, androgynous, pansexual, founding the kingdom, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom for the North American Democratic Republic. The king is absent, my brothers and sisters. The king is absent. We need to get that the Republic and North American Union in a public-private partnership, and the king is absent in Canada, The king is absent. We get to get the 21st century new resolutions and create defense only, and to play defense only like that hardball ball, aka the blackout ball. We're going to play defense, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, like that hardball ball, aka the blackout ball. My 49ers lost, give some charity, millionaires, billionaire athletes and CEOs. And again, ain't no way that I would have been so selfish. And I don't pretend to be less selfish. I discussed it in the past online. I have a weird sexuality, but I'm not actually looking. I'm not looking for relationships. Just friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only. Pledge your allegiance, thou art family. Friends with benefits only. Pledge your allegiance, thou art family. Pledge your allegiance, thou art family. Friends with benefits only. And, I'm part of being pansexual. Pansexual, that's another story, Dissociate that and forget that. Just focus on my theories and my initiatives and the fundamentals, geopolitical analysis, which I'm going to do, and paralleling the words of my auntie Christian Freeland. And that we need, of course, yes, to come together, but we also need to be also realistic, because Trump is about to be inaugurated in 33 days, and we need to get serious, and sometimes we need to get tough, but we have to put something on the table. What am I going to put for my American brothers and sisters? What? Kisses by the trains I got, hugs, washing feet on the mountain, washing feet, some tourism, and we can propose alternatives. Let's mass finance tourism for Canada. We got great places to see, and vice versa. There's so many great places to see in the USA, and if we create the common currency, the UE, based on the value of the US dollar, we can become parallel to the European Union, which they did. They created the European Central Bank, and they back in 25 years ago, back in the 90s. So we can create a common currency in North America. I am very for that, But as equals, my brothers and sisters of the USA, not just because I was born in the USA post 1776, once as a woman, twice as a man, but it's because we need to get that equality. We need to get that binationalism, and we need to work together as North Americans. We can become something together, a collective civilizational complex, strong and free. Here we say the true North, strong and free, but strength and freedom ain't enough. We gotta have some loving, man. We gotta have some loving and understanding, and the better of ourselves. I know, myself also included, I have selfishness. Sometimes we feel certain things, and racism sometimes is subconscious. To my black brothers and sisters, 13.3, 13.4%. If I put on the table what I put for everybody else, kisses first, kisses, hugs, and to go together, because we're North Americans. We got each other. We got each other at the end of the day, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and see what's happening in the world, throughout the world. We're an emergent North American collective, and obviously all who come to join us. My proposition is also parallel to have a joint public-private partnership, to build new supercomputers and monitoring security and service protocols based on my new 911 for the 21st century service and defense and security and service and defense protocols for the security apparatus of the North American collective, further integration via my CIT theory, the citizen integration theory, and the DFT, the democratic fusion theory, that DFT, my holy trinity of theories, with some rock and roll with it. And to give some charity, and to rebuild the infrastructure of the North American collective, and to rebuild social housing. And I gotta give a XYZ, because who builds it, my brothers and sisters. Construction workers, LOV, construction workers on those cranes, changing on those cranes, and layer by layer, they going up another floor, well, layer by layer. And I'm a fan of, I have a little bit of a fetish for cranes. I have a little bit of crane fetish. If you're a crane conductor, you can always give double hugs, triple kisses. And, I just admire cranes for some reason. I'm a bit obsessed about cranes, and to know a little bit more about them. And always when I see cranes, I kind of get a bit excited. I always meditate, how much can they lift, where were they built, what are the ingredients, the steel, the metal, the aluminum, how the wiring, how it actually works, and where would they build the cranes. And we build great cranes, and with the cranes enabled us to build skyscrapers, and we need to build more skyscrapers. And I gotta give a shout out, now that I'm in the construction field, and to Hydro-Quebec, LOV workers of the past, because it takes a little bit of that old school with a new school for the 21st century. In the 20th century, the workers who build more than 63 dams, here they're clean, zero pollution, zero emission energy. And thanks to the Hydro-Quebec workers, I can do this video, clean, zero pollution, energy, and emission. And I have this light above my head, which illuminates me, and I'm going to be able to do and navigate all the things that I'm going to do before I go on my rock and roll march workout later this afternoon. So To the workers of the Hydro-Quebec, let me see, and all they're doing their work on the field now. It's east, west, north, south across Montreal and La Belle Province, and our electricity goes to five, I believe, six states now, all the way to the island of Manhattan. 1/20th, which is 20%, which is 1/5 of the electricity, goes from Hydro-Quebec to the USA and powers many states, more than, I believe, 6 now states. Before it was 5, I believe 6 states in the US. 6 states in the US. So for the comment, I'm not going to comment on Donald Trump's great state of Canada, but I do gotta say, because I'm a pro-labor lover, revolutionary centrist, at least he said the great state of Canada, the great state. But of course, we are great through North Strong and Free. I play Team Canada, but that doesn't, we gotta play also Team North America. We gotta get past nationalism, at least in North America. And here we made the great linguistic compromise. I mean, I love English, but I also love French. I always defend French language, but I also say it's how we make an effort. Because my American brothers and sisters and all who want to make an effort in French, I'm going to say, well, start with Celine Dion. Start with Celine Dion, you know. It's not a problem. We got to be open for business. But we have this beautiful, great linguistic compromise for the socio-cultural context of Quebec, which myself included, 10 million Quebecers. 10 million Quebecers, we build great dams with, and our culture is not only Celine Dion. It's not only Celine Dion, you get that rainbow dragon with it, but also the fact that I was born here in Quebec in past lives, previous incarnations, and right in the USA and across, served of course in the RCMP, served in the United States Armed Forces, but sometimes I was born a woman, you know, so now you get that 50-50, you gotta get a third one. There's people who are neurodivergent, and not only neurodivergent but also gender diverse, who don't fit in the binary category and who identify as both male and female, you know, who are androgynous or another gender. I guess we can make certain compromises. We made the great linguistic compromise, and yes, myself with all Asperger's, and sometimes, you know, the interactions with certain people see me as weird. I give permission to people to laugh at me. I'd rather people laugh, but, you know, I'm also hyper vigilant because my own survived trauma and trauma from the past, but in the past years has been a lot of healing and survived COVID, and I'm just financially stressed at the moment. But main message is hug like you never hugged before. Just like a whole period of hockey is 20 minutes, 3 periods, that's 20 times 3, that's 60 minutes. Just hug like you never hugged before for 20 minutes with consent. Obviously, don't start hugging random people in the streets, you know, don't start hugging random people in the streets. They're gonna get in trouble. That's not what I said, and I said with consent, you know. And me, it's a just ask policy, and I love it, black, white, and rainbow. I love it, black, white, and rainbow. Love black, white, and rainbow. And, you know, we gotta, here at least in North America, my brothers, we have tough times, but billionaires and CEOs give some charity. Christmas holidays is coming. Would have been nice to reduce the cost. I would have loved to have all the ships, to have a mass financing. If I would have been a billionaire, you know, I would have said with the Canada Post strike, I would have said, you know what, I'm going to mass finance, give 10% of every billion which I would have had. I would have given 10% just to deliver gifts on the holidays to the neighborhoods, and because I know the neighborhoods, you know, because I did my laundry and I live in neighborhoods where I know where the economic inequalities and economic difficulties are, and myself just financially stressful. Although it's better than I used to live. I just remember moving from a underground basement. It was very moldy. I was sick and suicidal, and I crossed Canada coast to coast. That event in my life turned my whole life around. Back in 2017, I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians. Went quite coast to coast, and you're my family. Quebecers are my family, and my brothers and sisters in the USA, you're also my family. Sometimes we're dysfunctional, and please give some charity. Ain't no way that some of you millionaires and billionaires that in this tough economic times for many of us, and for that redemption. Because freedom, I have it tattooed here, freedom, eh? But freedom, to be honest, to lift the sword, SWORD, or freedom, but that's a dangerous thing, and freedom has to be insured, you know? You know? I only know one person who I asked before to marry, and probably gonna ask again for marriage, probably on the 24th, 25th deadline, 24th, 25th, or latest deadline before the inauguration of Trump, last deadline, I guess, and if I will be married, I'm gonna marry in an open marriage, and why not? I guess with my with my with my rainbow. Probably gonna be. Anyways, but I love you. But I mean, I don't. It's very few of us that are really fighting the cause of freedom. Freedom is something which has to be defined also, and very few of us are worthy, to fight in the cause of freedom. And although I have it tattooed there, it's something which also our individual natures, which with our own difficulties, and myself being less able in social settings and circumstances, and due to my HFA, high functioning autism, and Asperger's, having my obsessive interests, which with intensity preoccupy my psychic mental capabilities 24/7. Basically, it's geopolitics, analyzing, looking at the news, analyzing geopolitics, revising my theories and protocols and documents which I've written over the past more than 7 years in different USB keys, such as the North American strategy for the defense and the protocols for a public-private partnership for the defense and the continuity of the collective civilizational complex of North America's continuity of civilization of North America in case of a thermonuclear war. It's a long title for the paper, but of course I am calling for the building of 44 tunnels. I am calling for the building of 44 tunnels. I am calling for the building of 44 tunnels based on the underground Montreal city. There's an underground city in Montreal based on that in case of a thermonuclear war, which is possible that it's can happen in reality. In my scenario of 2019, there was not a question mark on the nuclear warheads, on the nuclear ICBM use of intercontinental ballistic missiles and nuclear warheads, but there was in my scenario the use of biological weaponry. So of course we have been seeing in the past years, and of course since the geopolitical situation deteriorated and the Canada-China relation and crisis with different countries and states and civilizational regions which are not part of the North American collective complex or the North American collective civilizational complex, and we have seen growing tensions in geopolitical regions, but we must avoid. Here, what do I gotta do? What do I gotta do? I gotta kiss? Do I gotta hug? What I gotta do? You let me know what I gotta do, and I'm a doer. Consent and hygiene, consent and hygiene, consent and hygiene. I can do. I can cook. I can clean. I can wash the feet of my brothers and sisters, and the Senate, the Republicans, the MAGAs with a little bit of a little bit of that, But we have to come together, North Americans, at least here in this new North American complex. We have to avoid. We have to play it binational, like that NHL, National Hockey League, like the PVHL, Professional Women's Hockey League, and like the NBA. At least here in the New World, in the North American collective civilizational complex, we made it this far. With the French language, sometimes we put on the table there's tensions, but to have peace and continuity of peaceful relations, we have to come together for the integrated North American complex. Let's form a new institutions based on public-private partnership for defense, security, and mass finance the rebuilding of our infrastructure. Canadian infrastructure, the bridges, the roads, the infrastructure, and the North American ones, and rebuilding of the ghettos as well, rebuilding of the mass financing of the ghettos by a public-private partnership as well. So we need to get that defense, security, and service, the protocols, the philosophies via public-private partnership, coast-to-coast North Americans unite. We have to, as much as possible, avoid, please, economic nationalism between Canada and the United States. Little brother, little sister, big sister, little brother, little sister, little brother, little sister. Sometimes we got a little pushy, and we give a little bit of each other on the football field. But, like Tom Brady, after he gets sacked by Ray Lewis, still hugs and say, love you, man. After Ray Lewis sacks Brady in the Super Bowl, so says, love you, man. After actually, Brady didn't play in the hardball, aka blackout ball. Actually, Brady didn't play in the hardball ball, aka blackout ball. Actually, Tom Brady did not play in my hardball ball, but nonetheless, just as a reference, as a football reference, because dancing is my favorite sport, but I love gridiron, I love football, Canadian football, CFL, and North American football, and I'm a 49er, but, I gotta say to the NFL, triple those cheerleader salaries, because dancing is a sport, triple those cheerleader salaries, because dancing is a sport, triple those cheerleader salaries, because dancing is a sport, you know. And I know my geopolitics, any discussions on geopolitical realms, and I can discuss, although I still cleaning by Christmas, by the 23rd, including I'm gonna do a big cleaning day, and I guess everything gotta go as I'm auctioning 93% of everything which I own. I'm auctioning everything that I own, 93% everything, including my shirt and everything, for to give half, 50% to my anonymous friend. And financially stressed, $10,000 in debt, but I gotta salute my auntie Christia Freeland's wisdom. Wisdom in the letter that was mentioning of the Trump administration and Trump gonna pursue, if it goes according to plan, an aggressive economic nationalism policies, aggressive economic nationalism policies, aggressive economic nationalism policies. So that is the fundamental resume of what the tariffs mean. Aggressive economic nationalism, aggressive nationalist economic policies. However, we want to interchange the words aggressive economics and nationalism. So here we must avoid it. We must avoid it. In North America, we got to play that binational. It's time to create a common currency for North American Central Bank by my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, which I'm calling Auntie Freeland to revise and maybe endorse, because we got to do it. So now that I'm on the topic of discussion of the DRT, I'm going to discuss it fully, and I'm going to try to be as simple as I can in the terms of the linguistic language which I use, because Aspies, we have a tendency, and it's a symptom of Asperger's, to utilize too much sophisticated, fancy, cosmopolitan, intellectual, academic, scholarly language, and the use of phrases which are not adequate or can obfuscate the more simple terms which are better for the understanding of someone who is listening to what I'm going to say. So the DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, is my theory which I've formulated over the past more than, I would say, 5 years, if not during COVID at least. So now it's time for the DRT. Paradoxically, it's a paradox because I'm putting it on the table, and a paradox that this Aspie, financially struggling Aspie artist, athlete, philosopher, is able to put the DRT, standing for debt refusion theory, as the DRT, debt refusion theory, on the table. And of course, it is the only solution, but the maker of my statement that it is the only solution at this point in time, where we find ourselves on the 17th of December 2024, is to the fact that we now pay in Canadian public's finances, the public finances of Canada. We've reached a level where we pay 46.5 billion in interest, 46.5 billion in interest, 46.5 billion in interest, 46.5 billion in interest. A billion has 9 zeros, a billion has 9 zeros, a billion has 9 zeros. So that's 46,000 million, 46,000 million, 46,000 million. That is the amount of interest which we pay on the public debt. That is 9 zeros. A billion has 9 zeros. So it went in 2020, 2021 fiscal year from 20.3 times 2 would have been 40.6. 20.3 times 2 would have been 40.6. It's now 46.5 billion. So it more than doubled, because 20.3 double would have been 40.6. It's 46.5 billion in interest which we're paying, not on the public debt of Canada. 46.5, it doubles. Surely, due to COVID, implementation of the COVID protocols to sustain the population in the dire health financial crisis which followed consequently after in March 2020, and I had COVID, I survived it. I got triple vaccinated, 3 vaccines, and that was triple vaxxed here, yours truly, and encouraging all for public hygiene and keep those public hygiene practices as much as one can. I open carrying my disinfectant, which yours truly made in Canada, but I can do it made in North America by national, and the DRT debt refusion theory for Canada, Canada first, and the US got to follow, because the United States is the same kind of situation. So the DRT debt refusion theory. And again, you can argue all you want, but this is the only solution which is now proponent on the table. The solution, the DRT theory, is the only solution as we move forward now in the 21st century. And don't want to be too alarmist, but due to how much we pay in interest, is the possibility that at the beginning of the year, a black swan event, consequently could trigger the collapse of Canadian public finances, the collapse of Canadian public finances at the beginning of the fiscal year, maybe in first month in February, early February, 1st of February or so. It's possible after the first month when the fiscal year revises, and we need to implement the DRT debt refusion theory. Also includes monetary integration theory. So integrated in my debt refusion theory is monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. Monetary integration theory was the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. So in my DRT theory, D, debt, R, refusion, T theory, is integrated the economic theory known as the monetary integration theory, is integrated monetary integration theory. So monetary integration theory is what the Europeans did in the 90s. The Germans, they destroyed their own central bank. The French, they destroyed their own central bank. The Italians as well. And also all currencies. Now they came together back decades ago, 25 years ago, and the Europeans, many nation states, they destroyed their own central banks, their national central banks, they destroyed. And they implemented a supranationalism policy. Supranationalist policy. And of course, which is the monetary integration theory. So they created the ECB, the European Central Bank, the ECB, the European Central Bank, the European Central Bank. So here in North America, we got to do something similar, but where we are now, paradoxically, it has to be done via my DRT, D, debt refusion theory. So in my theory, it's integrated the monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory which was done in the European Union, So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt, including my $10,000, my $10,000 to the RBC. We're going to take all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We're going to take all the public and the private debt. We're going to take all the public and the private debt. We're going to refuse it. So all the public private debt, but we have to do the conversion into US dollars, because the United States dollar still is the currency of choice for world trade, international business, global commerce, import, export, and economic affairs, and diplomacy, and politics and geopolitics. The United States currency still is the #1 currency in the world. So all the public private debt of Canada, including myself as a citizen who has a $10,000 debt to the Royal Bank of Canada, $10,000 debt to the Royal Bank of Canada. I got $10,000 debt to the Royal Bank of Canada. All the debt, public and private, converted to US dollars. All that money is going to be the initial money supply for a new central bank. That's why Canada first, United States second, and Mexico is part of North America. And of course, Haiti is part of North America. Cuba is a paradox because it's still socialist communist, but they're part of North America. Jamaica and the islands, they're part of North America. Not just Canada, United States, Mexico, but the islands, Jamaica, Haiti, Cuba, Dominican Republic, they're part of the North American complex. They're North American countries. Canada first, United States second, Mexico if they will, and then whoever wills, it can be expanded, blah, blah, NATO member countries, North Atlantic Treaty Organization member countries, but Canada first. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt, and that's what we're going to do. All that public private debt converted to US dollar is going to be the initial money supply for a new central bank. All the debt, public and private debt, is going to be the initial money supply, the new money in circulation for this new central bank, and we're going to create a new currency called the UE based on the value of the US dollar, or we can call it the new dollar. I'm not going to argue. You can call it the new North American dollar, the new dollar, NEU, the new dollar. We can call it the new dollar, but I'd rather we call it the UE for the 21st century because that's what money is. That's what money is, an exchange unit. So UE, based on the value of the US dollar at that point in time, it starts with me today, 7 days before Christmas. 7 days before Christmas, and Christmas I came early for Canadians should start today. The DRT has to be implemented. All the debt, public and private debt, going to be refused and converted to US dollar. All that money is going to be all the money in circulation, right to Tiff Mackler, the governor of Canada, right to the Federal Reserve, Rainbow Dragon philosopher, artist, athlete, philosopher, and geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, the DRT theory, debt refusion theory. All the debt, public and private, we're going to convert it to US dollars. We're going to convert it to US dollars. We're going to convert it to US dollars, All the debt, all that debt, we're going to be public and private debt. It's going to be the money in circulation. It's going to be in the trillions. So all the debt converted to US dollars, all the public-private debt of Canada converted to US dollars, that money is going to be the initial money supply. We're going to set an interest rate level of 10% afterwards. So no more, the 10% maximum interest rate is going to be the maximum interest rate after we implement my DRT theory. It could be 3.33, 3.33, 1.56, 7.18, 6.1, 9.3, 1.56, below 10 by principle. No more than 10 after that. That's going to be a 10% maximum of interest to be able to be after that implementation of the theory. No more interest, more than 10%. 10% if done is going to be the principle. It has to be done in the 21st century, the DRT. We are at the point it has to be done. It's a financial economic emergency, and that's why it takes a public-private partnership. My Scorpio brother Bill Gates of BlackRock and Blackstone are two private financial institutions, although there's a lot of public-private mergers, but they split in 1988, 1989, 1988, 1989, and it's another Scorpio, Larry Fink, and Joe Biden, another astrologically related Scorpio of the stars, and until the 20th of January, I guess until the 19th, 20th, early in the morning, he's still president, and I would have voted for him or Kamala. I would have voted for, not because Scorpio, astrologically Scorpios, because it takes Sagittarius, Leo, Pisces, the 12 signs to work together, and the sun and the moon, and the god and the goddess, because I do goddess. When you say God bless Canada and United States, God bless North America, God bless Canada, God bless United States, I got a goddess that, I got a goddess that, I got a geodds it, and I do geodds it because I will to build the forgotten goddess temple. But with the DRT, debt refusion theory, all that money, we're going to be able to do great things for North America. Rebuild the infrastructure of the North American collective, mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise, mass finance citizens to work out, exercise, and we're going to create this new currency based on the value of the US dollar, and all the money in circulation will be all the public and private debt initially. The UE. We're going to create the UE. U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The UE, the UE, the UE. That's going to be the new currency. And we can mass finance the UEs, the UEs, the UEs. Microsoft, Facebook, Google, a public-private partnership to do my workout for fellow citizens. Do a workout successfully completed, do some fitness, do some activities, credit some UEs for wellness. Mass finance tourism, because it did me good. Mass finance citizens to go see the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon, where the mountains are, is a huge, huge complex, which I visited in a past life when I was roaming, born in the USA post 7076, and the Temple of Set, Temple of Isis, Temple of Ra, Temple of Osiris, Temple of Horus, and all those are the names. Those are the names of Grand Canyon. Those are the names for mountain peaks. Don't ask me why do I know that. I guess it's an Aspie thing. How do you know that? The names of the Grand Canyon, because it's something which I've been there in a past life, and I remember I was like, ah! Just like I was when I went to the Rockies, and I will to go in this life as well. Maybe let's go do some workout, training, exercising there, jog, workout, whatever the case may be. Mass finance tourism across the complex. Do implement Operation Northern Scorpio. Implement Operation Northern Scorpio. Rebuild the infrastructure. Mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise. Mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise, because it's great for wellness, and do a lot of good for the public, and build 44 tunnels. Build those 44 tunnels across North America in case of a thermonuclear war. And of course, mass finance, also artistic programs, and rebuilding the infrastructure and social housing, and rehabilitation of the Great North American Redemption Rehabilitation Act. And that's what we gotta do together. And it takes a public-private partnership effort. And we have to get binational. And we have to, Canadians and my brothers and sisters, USA, and with LOV, and together, it's not just about strength and freedom, and it's not just about the free and the brave. You gotta get some loving with it. You have to get some LOV with it. And me and you, most of us know it's not all about the money. Most of us know it's not all about the money. Most of us know it's not. All money is to buy, sell. We have to use it. You have to use it. I'm not totally selfless. I don't pretend. I've been craving a massage therapy session for years now. But you know what? Wall Street millionaires, billionaires, finance, the firefighters and the nurses and the public, and those picking up the garbage and the public garbage collectors. That's why we call public sanitation. Those who pick up the garbage, the trash every week. They're athletes also. Give them some free tickets. NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NFL, National Football League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB. Give them some free tickets. Canada, United States, for the public workers, and finance them. They deserve it, and they earn it more than yours truly, who been working out, training, and exercising for the past years, and politicking and being a wannabe YouTuber here who doesn't get views and likes. But I started last month, I guess, breaking a curse. I guess it was something which I got more views on that rock and roll, and I guess with my anonymous friend who helped me finance a new phone, my anonymous friend who helped me finance a new phone, If I make $1 million, $1 billion, $1 trillion, I'm gonna get 50%, and I will to build on the Canadian-US border the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the Forgotten Goddess geodds Temple, the Forgotten Goddess Temple, and will parallel 50-50 the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, and me and Donald Trump fighting in a boxing ring to be the inauguration For the North American Union, the Democratic Republic, the king is absent. We need to get that Canadian Republican Army for defense, security, and service. Operation Northern Scorpio, the Canadian Republican Army. Operation Northern Scorpio, the Canadian Republican Army, security, service, and defense. All security services integrated, all security services integrated, security, service, and defense. You know, that's what I need to do, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, Atlantic and the Pacific, and rebuild the infrastructure. And thank you those who pick up the garbage, the compost, the recycling, the butchers, the bakers, the electricians, the plumbers, those in the daycares changing some diapers, LOV, those of course who now going on the trucks, the railway conductor, the public transit workers, gotta give some LOV and always meditate and integrate about them. Those in the public, those who changing some daycares, those changing some diapers in the daycares, those flipping some burgers in the fast food industry, making some food, those cleaning workers, those construction workers, the electricians, the welders, and all the workers of the North American Collective. Let's get that North American Collective Workers Party going. Let's get that North American Collective Workers Party for the Democratic Republic, private partnership, the dream. I'm laying the foundations first and foremost with 718 trillions of kisses. Trillions of kisses. I'm not totally selfless, you know. I lust. Only friends with benefits only from now on. Just ask, consent, and hygiene. It can be of service. That's it, that's all. And we need to rebuild the infrastructure, rebuilt, and saluting the farmers, the food producers. And it's not all about millionaires and billionaires and athletes. And sometimes, you know, we got to get some charity and, you know, acknowledge and finance them Wall Street billionaires. Because I'm going to take a bath tomorrow after my workout and over the weekend, the bath to substitute for I've been craving a massage therapy ever since I survived COVID, but you know what, I'm grateful I got a bed, and I got this new red, my favorite color chair here, and got these gloves gifted from my anonymous friend, for which I use them a bit, so they kind of broken, this little fluff coming from them, but I'm auctioning them. I'm gonna give 50% to my anonymous friend. Who wants to buy $1 million, and auctioning the boots, by which I marched more than all the generals of NATO combined during COVID, and now it's time to switch it to that French, because we liable, Privee. I'm gonna sing a more rock and roll and switch it to that French. Let's go, North Americans, I know we can. Truckers and the butchers and the bakers on the lanes. Hey, those switching on those lanes. Operators on those cranes. Construction workers, that's the fame. Those the butchers and the bakers cooking me some of that bacon. Daycare workers changing diapers. It ain't all about Wall Street. You know that we gotta eat. Hey, it ain't all about the dollar. It ain't all about that strength. Freedom gotta be insured. I ain't selfless, I ain't selfless, I ain't selfish, I ain't selfish. Gotta get that 50-50 for myself and for the other. Gotta give my brother, sister, gotta get that rainbow dragon. For the black and white, you swing it. For the black and white, you swing it. Swing it on the hips, we with it. Swing it on the hips, we with it. For the trick and for the plays, goal, I'm in the setting ways. Hey, Wall Street, give some charity up into eat. You know that's the flavor, that's the rainbow dragon eat. Hey, for the black and white and rainbow, North American, you know we go. Coast to coast, we play that defense. Coast to coast, we're gonna play that defense. Hot, like that hardball ball, like the blackout ball French. Because we have the bienvenue dans la grotte du dragon arc-en-ciel. Je vous encourage premièrement à faire de l'entraînement physique avec gratitude. Je dois dire ma gratitude commence avec la gratitude. Puis bien sûr, je vais faire en français, car on a fait le grand compromis du français du Québec. Les 10 millions de Québécois, incluant moi-même, qui sont en Amérique du Nord, dans le collectif nord-américain. Gratitude, j'ai payé mon loyer, j'ai payé ma facture d'électricité aussi. Go Hydro-Québec, go, c'est la chanson. 24/24, les travailleurs du passé du 20e siècle. Et merci pour avoir bâti les centrales. Je pense toujours à vous autres, à chaque jour du quotidien, car je suis un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique, bien sûr, qui a prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant d'une manière générale en 2019, en octobre puis en novembre. J'ai prévu la situation actuelle qui se déroule, puis bien sûr la situation qui se déroule, bien sûr à partir vis-à-vis mon scénario que j'avais fait de la conclusion en 2019, parce que je suis un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique indépendant, puis c'est ça, à cause de l'Asperger, je suis connu comme l'autisme hautement fonctionnel. On a les aspis, ceux qui ont l'Asperger, on a des intérêts obsessifs, fait que la géopolitique, ça fait des années que ça préoccupe, puis tout mon mental, puis je suis super concentré, puis on est super concentré, puis dedans, quand on discute, puis on travaille dans nos intérêts obsessifs, puis c'est vraiment 24/24, les analyses, puis les théories, puis la révision de mes analyses, puis mes conclusions en géopolitique au quotidien, c'est 24/24, la géopolitique, l'analyse, la théorie, puis les événements, l'analyse des événements qui se passent au quotidien, puis dans le passé, puis relatif à qu'est-ce qui se passe du passé, puis prévoir peut-être qu'est-ce qui va se passer dans le futur, c'est ça l'analyse, puis la théorie en géopolitique, de manière de la région, comme on est on fait partie, les Québécois et Québécoises, de l'Amérique du Nord. Je dis souvent, je suis Québécois, Canadien, Nord-Américain, mais ça reste que je suis quand même Nord-Américain, Canadien, Québécois. Puis personnellement, je ne me considère pas en étant un membre d'une diaspora, même si je connais bien sûr les éléments, puis les idéologies, puis la philosophie des pays comme la Russie, puis bien sûr comme la Chine. Je peux me prononcer vis-à-vis mes protocoles, mes initiatives qui sont fondamentalement pour l'Amérique du Nord, parce que bien sûr, c'est pour l'Amérique du Nord. Puis je suis un philosophe, analyste et théoricien nord-américain, artiste, même si je souhaite la paix dans le monde. Puis qu'est-ce qui se passe dans le monde, je l'ai prévu bien sûr en 2019. Puis maintenant, je veux faire un avis puis une discussion, bien sûr, nouveau événement qui est parallèle, qui est important pour nous, puis pour la géopolitique, bien sûr, c'est, j'appelle ma tante parce que je vous considère comme famille, bien sûr, comme des fois j'appelle M. Legault mon oncle, là, parce que je considère ma famille, tu sais, en tant que ma famille du Québec, les Canadiens, puis je m'étends aussi, bien sûr, pour les Nord-Américains, les États-Unis, nos voisins, ils sont nos frères et sœurs quand même. Fait que, puis tous ceux qui viennent nous rejoindre, le plus qu'on puisse, on doit faire un effort vis-à-vis du français aussi, comme j'avais une discussion avec un citoyen, puis j'avais dit, nous autres aussi, si on veut valoriser le français, puis l'amour du français, de la culture du français, puis le français au Québec, il faut qu'on fasse notre part, puis notre effort aussi individuel, si on veut. Il y a une manière aussi de le faire aussi, puis moi aussi, c'est sûr que les interactions sociales avec l'Asperger's, c'est peut-être un peu plus difficile dans le contexte social, puis je suis moins capable dans certains domaines, puis dans certains domaines, je suis quand même médiocre, comme ci, comme ça, puis pas bon, mais la géopolitique, c'est 24/24, puis je suis un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique, puis aujourd'hui, je dois dire qu'il y a une sagesse dans la lettre de démission de Chrystia Freeland, ma tante Chrystia Freeland, qui était ministre des Finances canadienne du Canada, ministre de la Finance du Canada, puis que dans cette lettre, elle fait mention, bien sûr, que les États-Unis, sous l'administration de Trump, qui va commencer dès le 20 janvier, vont poursuivre des politiques économiques nationalistes agressives, des politiques économiques nationalistes agressives, des politiques économiques nationalistes agressives. Fait une politique agressive, nationaliste, économique nationaliste. Fait que c'est une combinaison du nationalisme économique. Puis je dis que ici, en tant que Québécois canadien, au moins dans le nouveau collectif, parce qu'on est un collectif émergent de civilisation, les Nord-Américains, les Québécois, dont on a fait d'une beauté le grand compromis linguistique. Des fois, on se donne des coudes, on se pousse un peu, puis on met des plans, des protocoles. Moi, c'est bien sûr par l'encouragement, puis par faisant de la culture, puis des films, des cinémas québécois, puis j'en fais du rock and roll, peut-être un peu de comédie, un peu, peut-être pas si bon, là, mais je fais ma part, puis en ligne pour le français, puis toujours j'encourage, puis des fois, c'est juste dire merci d'avoir fait un effort vis-à-vis l'anglais ou le français, vice-versa, parce qu'il faut qu'on le fasse nous autres aussi en tant qu'individus, citoyens, en tant qu'individus. Moi-même, je suis un individu avec Asperger, je fais partie d'une petite minorité, c'est moins de 1 sur 300, c'est comme 0,5%, 0,44% qui sont atteints de l'autisme hautement fonctionnel. Fait que c'est quelque chose que depuis 45 mois, je fais la gestion de mes symptômes parce qu'il n'y a pas de médicaments. Fait que je peux paraître étrange dans certaines circonstances, mais j'ai quand même mes forces dans la géopolitique. Puis le rock'n'roll pour les Québécois et Québécoises, parce que j'ai ma trinité d'intérêts obsessifs, puis c'est 24/24, le rock'n'roll, la géopolitique, le sport, l'entraînement physique, puis la danse. Danse est mon sport préféré, que je préfère la danse comme sport, puis l'entraînement physique aussi. Mais donc, aujourd'hui, je dois dire, je fais appel à tous, il faut le plus possible qu'on résiste au moins point de vue de l'économie du Québec, puis de la politique nord-américaine, de l'Amérique du Nord, qu'on résiste le nationalisme, qu'on résiste, au moins parce qu'on est un nouveau collectif de civilisation, puis comme la Ligue nationale de hockey, puis la nouvelle ligue formée, bien sûr, professionnelle, la Ligue professionnelle de hockey féminin, la Ligue professionnelle de hockey féminin, la Ligue professionnelle du hockey féminin, que j'adore, puis j'aimerais ça pouvoir me permettre d'acheter le chandail de victoire, mais même si je suis en crise financière de 10 000 maintenant, mais j'encourage avec mon encouragement, puis mon rock'n'roll, j'ai créé une chanson pour la victoire, 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 c'est l'équipe féminine de hockey, puis j'aime bien les deux, j'aime l'hockey féminin et masculin, puis moi-même, bien sûr, en faisant, c'est la danse que je préfère, ça c'est sûr, là, la danse, c'est sûr, mais en tant qu'androgyne, pansexuel, puis qui fait partie de la même communauté de LGBTQ, c'est quelque chose, bien sûr, qui m'intéresse, tu sais, puis il faut qu'on résiste le nationalisme, puis il faut qu'on fasse un peu parallèle à la ligue de sport, parce que moi, je suis d'avis, puis je fais appel à la création d'une monnaie commune. une monnaie, une unité d'échange comme le dollar canadien, puis le dollar des États-Unis, pour la création d'une nouvelle monnaie que j'appelle l'unité d'échange universelle. L'unité d'échange universelle, U.unité, E.échange universel. Parallèlement à ce qu'ils ont fait en Europe, la communauté européenne. Puis ils ont fait ça dans les années 90. Puis si plusieurs pays en Europe se sont mis ensemble, les Allemands, l'Allemagne, la France, l'Italie, dans l'Europe, bien en Amérique du Nord, je dis qu'on aurait dû le faire avant les Européens. On aurait dû le faire en 1963, avant les Européens, en 1978, en 1984, en 1999, en 19... mais on doit le faire maintenant, puis qu'on garde cette distinction. Puis je dis souvent, mais le roi est absent, le roi est absent, le roi est absent. Puis je dis souvent, bien sûr, que je vous défendrai, bien sûr, les Québécois québécoises, puis même les États-Unis, parce que j'étais né dans les États-Unis, puis dans les réincarnations, en étant mystique à quelqu'un qui croit à des réincarnations. Bien sûr, c'est quelqu'un qui... Je crois à des réincarnations. Puis j'étais né homme-femme des fois. Aujourd'hui, je propose, puis il faut que je vous fasse appel qu'on résiste le nationalisme économique canadien, puis États-Unis aussi, il faut qu'ils résistent, puis il faut qu'on fasse binational le plus possible, l'intégration le plus possible pour la défense, la sécurité, puis le service. Puis que j'appelle le nouveau protocole de 911. 911, bien sûr, c'est la sécurité de service et de sécurité canadienne puis états-unienne, parce que le 911, ça fait référence aux États-Unis aussi, puis au Canada aussi, bien, puis mes protocoles de réforme, bien sûr, pas juste de philosophie de comment on procède avec la sécurité, mais c'est quelque chose qu'il faut qu'on pense dans le 21e siècle, avec les enjeux maintenant de géopolitique, puis la fragmentation géopolitique, puis les conflits géopolitiques à l'extérieur du collectif nord-américain. Il faut qu'on résiste à ces tendances en tant que Nord-Américains, Canadiens, Québécois, puis en tant qu'on est un collectif émergent. Puis c'est sûr qu'avec le français, on a fait le grand compromis, on continue de mettre sur la table du financement. Des fois, c'est des lois, des fois, ben, il y a une certaine sagesse dans certaines choses. Des fois, bien sûr, c'est sûr qu'il faut que j'aille par sujet, puis comment j'aurais procédé. Puis c'est sûr que des fois, la critique, il faut être balancée par des alternatives. Qu'est-ce que vous me suggérez? Peut-être ça, c'est une chose que les autistes non fonctionnels comme moi-même, qui sont atteints par l'Asperger's, c'est peut-être cette interaction sociale, puis c'est comment qu'on voit les choses par on est peut-être plus axé à trouver une solution à certaines choses qu'on vit, comme moi, l'entraînement physique, c'est ma médecine, puis j'encourage les gens, puis je fais appel, j'ai fait appel, ça fait des années que j'appelle, puis les gens, qu'on finance les gens par un partenariat public-privé, puis encore une fois, si vous êtes millionnaire, milliardaire, s'il vous plaît, faites un don, donnez à la charité un peu, parce que c'est des temps difficiles, puis c'est sûr que les gens ont besoin d'une deuxième chance, puis moi, bien sûr, je suis ouvert pour le travail, les affaires 24/24, sur la table, je mets des milliards de bisous, avec des châteaux, bien sûr, puis je veux construire sur la frontière canado-états-unienne, puis bien sûr, je fais appel pour Donald Trump pour me combattre dans un combat de boxe, j'ai même les gants, j'ai commencé, bien sûr, à rentrer dans la politique, parce qu'avant ça, j'étais pas mal préoccupé avec mon entraînement physique, je venais juste de sortir de la dépression de 2017, puis l'événement qui m'a fait sortir de la dépression, c'est quand j'ai sorti, puis j'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte. Quand j'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte, ça m'a eu un réveil, j'ai eu comme un réveil, puis j'ai dit, waouh, avant ça, j'étais en dépression suicidaire, puis j'ai établi un esprit de corps solide, j'ai établi un esprit de corps solide avec ma famille du Québec, les Canadiens, en voyant le Canada, j'ai dit, waouh, tellement de choses à faire, à voir, puis la gratitude, ça a été super important, puis cet événement, ça m'a complètement changé ma vie. Ça a complètement changé ma vie, puis je dis bien sûr qu'on finance le tourisme aussi, moi j'aimerais ça aller voir les centrales d'Hydro-Québec à Bay James, j'aimerais ça aller voir les centrales de l'Hydro-Québec à Bay James, puis le Grand Canyon aux États-Unis, puis depuis 2018, je commence à faire appel à Donald Trump dans un combat de boxe, parce que initialement, en 2018, Donald Trump a imposé des tarifs de 10% sur l'aluminium puis l'acier, puis c'est là que mon ami anonyme, que si je fais 1 million, je donne la moitié, 1 milliard, 1 million, de 50%, bien sûr, ben, sur la moitié, j'ai eu ce don de ces gants rouges, ma couleur préférée, puis je me suis entraîné bien pour, puis je vais continuer à m'entraîner dans les jours, semaines à venir, avant l'inauguration de Donald Trump, comme je l'ai fait hier, puis il a été brisé un peu, mais je les vends pour 20 millions, je vais donner la 50% sur la moitié à mon ami anonyme, puis bien sûr, je l'ai eu en cadeau quand j'ai commencé à faire appel à Donald Trump dans un combat de boxe sur la frontière canado-états-unienne et dans un ring arena fait d'aluminium puis d'acier canadien nord-américain, parce que c'était l'imposition des tarifs de 10% sur les biens, sur l'aluminium puis l'acier, puis maintenant il y a il y a bien sûr appel à imposer de 25% de tarifs sur tous les biens, sur tous les biens, sur tous les biens. C'est énorme, 25%, c'est 25 cents. C'est un quart, 25%, c'est un quart, là. C'est beaucoup, fait qu'il faut penser en ça que c'est un quart, donc... il faut qu'on trouve des solutions alternatives, bien sûr. Puis moi, c'est par la théorie de la refusion de la dette que c'est un paradoxe que je vous la mets sur la table puis la présente. Puis je vais la discuter maintenant le plus simplement possible que je puisse la discuter. Donc, sur la table, je fais appel pour l'implémentation de la théorie de la refusion de la dette, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, qui inclut la théorie d'intégration monétaire. La théorie d'intégration monétaire, c'est exactement la théorie qui a été faite de l'implémentation en Europe. Les Européens, bien sûr, ils ont fait la destruction de l'ancienne banque nationale. Les Allemands ils ont détruit des années 90, les Français aussi, leur banque centrale nationale, puis ont fait de la création d'une nouvelle banque commune, qui s'appelle la Banque centrale de l'Europe, la Banque centrale de l'Europe, la Banque centrale de l'Europe. Et bien sûr, ils ont fait l'intégration de cette banque, et bien sûr, ils ont fait l'implémentation de la théorie d'intégration monétaire. La théorie d'intégration monétaire. Donc, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, ça inclut, ça intègre, dans ma théorie est intégrée la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Donc, on doit faire la même chose. On va prendre toute la dette. Puis pourquoi je dis que c'est la seule et unique solution, c'est dû au fait qu'on paye en ce moment 46,5 milliards sur la dette publique. C'est 46,5 milliards, 1 milliard 109 millions, 1 milliard 109 0, 1 milliard 109 0. Donc, c'est 46 000, 46 000, 46 000, 46 000 millions. Donc, c'est 9 zéros, c'est 46 000 millions qu'on paye. C'est 46 000 millions. C'est énorme. Fait que ça a plus que doublé durant la COVID. En 2020-2021, c'était 20,3. 20,3 fois 2. Le double, c'est 40,6. Le double, c'est 40,6. Donc, 20,3, c'est 40,6. C'est ça que c'était payer la dette publique canadienne en 2020-2021. Donc 20,3, ça va être 20,3 fois 2, ça fait 40,6. Donc maintenant, c'est rendu à 46,5. 46,5 milliards, 46,5 milliards, 46,5 milliards. Fait que ça a plus que doublé parce que le double, c'est 20,3 fois 2, ça aurait été 40,6. Fait qu'il n'y a pas d'autre solution. C'est énorme. C'est sûr, c'est à cause de